Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. Folks, we're going to talk about two stories today, and both of them are very fantastic. The first one comes from Star Wars Insider issue number 126. It was written by Timothy Zahn, and it's called Buyer's Market. Now in this one, Lando is assisting Lieutenant Page's commandos from the Westing Games role-playing books, and he's helping them bust up some drug dealers off this planet. Now in return, Lando gets the spoils of war, which happen to be the mining machines he is going to be using in Timothy Zahn's upcoming, Thrawn trilogy. Now the trilogy had already come out, but this was like a prequel story of how Lando got the mining machines. First off, do we need a story like this? No, not really. But do we need a Lando story? Heck yes we do. I always love Lando stories. And that Lieutenant Page's Commandos was in it was just an extra bonus for me because I do like those characters as well. I remember exactly where I was when I read this. I was subscribing to Star Wars Insider, and for some reason that magazine came out super late to subscribers. It would hit newsstands first, and then a few days later subscribers would get it, and I hated that. I thought if you were a subscriber you should get it first. And so what I used to do is I used to check Books A Million, which is right up the road from me, and when it would come in, I'd read the short story in it. So when it got to me, most times, unless I just forgot to go to Books A Million earlier, I'd already read the short story. And I was in Books A Million and I read it, and when I opened it up and found out that it was a Lando story, I remember sitting there going, yes, Lando story, oh yeah. I was super excited because I love Lando, and then I knew immediately where it was going with this, that he was getting the mining machines. I was like, aha, yeah, Timothy Zahn's connecting his Thrawn trilogy books. That's nice. And I enjoy that Lieutenant Page's Commandos were in there as well. So there's a lot to like about this short story, and this is a good one. This is a good one. I know I've been knocking on Timothy Zahn a little bit here on my reviews, but he can write some good stuff, and this is a pretty solid short story that I did enjoy. The next story I want to talk about is one of the best, if not the best, Boba Fett comic book that ever came out. It was written by Andy Mangolis, and it's called Boba Fett, Twin Engines of Destruction. And this one-shot comic book, Jodo Kask, who is very popular in the Westing Games role-playing material, he's kind of like the fake Boba Fett. He looks like Boba Fett, but he's not. We've seen him a few times in the past, and even the Westing Games says, yeah, he's in Mandalorian armor, and his name's Jodo Kask, but if you mistake him for Boba Fett, he doesn't mind, and because that gives him more jobs that way. Well, Jodo Kask gets a job to do something, and I'm going to go ahead and spoil this one shot here. I have to talk about it here, but it turns out that he's working for Boba Fett, and Boba Fett set him up, and of course Boba Fett's going to kill Jodo Kask, and it was a fantastic story. Now this writer, Andy, this was the only comic book that he wrote within the expanded universe. I didn't even know that until I researched for this review. Now, if it was his idea or not, what a fantastic story. I really like this story because it's kind of a last minute, Boba Fett reveals, and he's been the mastermind behind it all. Dengar's in it, because he and Boba have that friendship. And Dengar warns Jodo Kask, you better watch out. And you could see this comic book playing out as a movie or like a TV episode because, oh man, it's just so fantastic. Of course, the cover art's really good, and the moment I saw it, I picked up, read it, loved it. Prior to this review, I read it again, love it. I still think it is the best Boba Fett comic book out there. Now, you can argue with me on that, and I'm totally fine with that. But for me, Twin Engines of Destruction is the best. It may be, it's one of the best Boba Fett stories. Definitely the best Boba Fett comic book. Let me clarify that, because there is some good short stories with Boba Fett. but the best comic book by far, by leaps and bounds, is Twin Engines of Destruction. Such a fan. If you're a Boba Fett fan, you don't have Engines of Destruction, you need to get it. Now, I'm sure there's an omnibus with all the Boba Fett stories that I'm sure has this in there, but it was just well done. And if you knew Jodo Kast, because it always bothered me that Jodo Kast was around, and he was kind of like the poor man's Boba Fett. And I understand why West End Games brought him around, but I was like, this guy here. And then that they brought him in and did this whole story with him and Boba Fett. I was like, yes, it's something that if you're a Boba Fett fan and you knew about Jodo Kast, you always wanted Jodo Kast to get his comeuppance. And now he finally does. So for that reason alone, really solid comic book. Again, I had no idea that the writer has only wrote this one. He may have written other comic books, but he only wrote this one Star Wars comic book, and that was it. But Andy, you nailed it. You nailed it, son. You should have done more. All right, folks, that's all the time I have for now. See you next time with another video.